Hi, everybody. I'm Matt, founder and CEO of LiveSchool. This is the LiveSchool podcast, and our guest today is JD Smith, assistant principal at John W. Bate Middle School in Danville, Kentucky. Good morning. Thanks for starting your day on the podcast.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So this is going to be an interesting conversation because you have a bit of a technology background too. So I feel like you've got the perspective of how to make all the systems work, but then also the people and the kids and the culture. So I'm excited to dive in. Why don't we just kind of take us back to start? Like, how did you approach your rollout to a school-wide system? What was your process like?
It was really unique. It started off with several years ago, and I don't remember exactly how long. I did a little pilot with just my class. So I had the app on my phone, and 3 years ago, I was the TRT computer science teacher, and as a school, we really weren't real satisfied with the current system we had.
And sorry to cut you off, but what was the current system? Was it a paper bucks or what were you doing?
It was a Google form
Google
with
okay.
some formatting and things that I had put into it to kind of help sort names and sort numbers.
Very low maintenance, I'm sure, right? Took none of your time to manage.
It was a bit of a job. That needed to be my whole job. But it was something that we used for 4 or 5 years. And what we found was that it was much easier. I told the staff, it's kind of like the suggestion cards at like restaurants and things, right? You know, when you're really mad, you're going to use it. And so we found that it was much easier to do the negative part of it than the positive side of it. And so as just a classroom teacher, computer science teacher, I said, you know what, let me pilot this. I reached out. I got a few accounts for the end of the year, and I shared it with some teachers that I knew were willing to try new things. And so we kind of tested it out. And then we were hiring a new principal, which at the time, our assistant principal, she was hired as head principal. And she kind of approached me and she's like, I know you have your principalship. Would you be interested? And I said, well, no. But then I changed my mind and said, you know, let's do it. And so, and thankfully, we had supportive staff. I've been in the building for 16 years, so it wasn't a big transition. But even in the interview, I brought it up. I said, you know, this is something we want to do. And at that time, we'd already secured funding to do it the next year. And then when the actual rollout came with the staff, it was I think LiveSchool was actually the first time that I had addressed the staff all together as the assistant principal. And I brought them all into the cafeteria, and we brought in our view boards, and I showed them what it was, and I showed them what it could do, and I explained why this was a good move, which made everything more efficient. It allowed us to focus on the positive things. And then the questions started coming in, well, how many positive points do I give? And I told the staff, I said, there's no number. I said, go as positive as you can. I said, you be as positive as you can. And I said, if you get too positive, I'll let you know. Well, we found out with our LiveSchool story that we were running through, inventory really quick. So we decided that we were going to stay as positive. We were just going to adjust our prices a little more because we were going to go bankrupt trying to fund our store.
It's an interesting approach because we hear that question a lot. Like if a school's rolling out for the first time, like how many points should we award, kind of thing. And there's different ways you can approach that. Some schools set specific goals, but that's probably a little maybe intimidating for teachers just getting used to something new. And okay, I'm trying to use it in an exact amount. So you just said like, hey, like I'll let you know.
It was a challenge. I said be too positive. Let's see if that becomes a thing. Now, I obviously referred back to the 6-to-1 ratio. Like, hey, at the end of the day, you know, we hit this mark. And what I'm finding now is that, give me just a second, I'll bring it up. But I think our ratios right now are pretty good. And in the second year of it, things are balancing a little more. Obviously, that first month of using it was just ridiculous through the roof. And then as people get set in, now it's more systematic with teachers. It's not something that they're just like, oh, let me do this now, or let me give this many for this for whatever reason. But they're actually one second, bringing up the scoreboard here for our teachers. So right now, like even our teacher who's given the most demerits, we call them strikes. Um, Her ratio is 55-1 for the year, and then we have 55-1, 65-1, 105-1, 23-1. Um, the lowest I'm seeing right now is somebody who rarely ever gives strikes, and they're at 7-1.
Yeah, which is all above your target of 6-1.
Right.
That's
We
awesome.
got 322-1. I mean, some of them are just 336-1. Some teachers don't give hardly any strikes because they spend all their time looking for the positive and bringing that part out. That the strikes become the behaviors that would earn strikes become so minimal in their class that it's something that can be handled with a conversation and a reminder. And it doesn't have to turn into anything any more formal than that.
Well, let's just dive in then to, because I know you've collected some data. I think you all have conducted some surveys around like school culture and climate and things like that. So you kind of you gave the opening there to just say like, could you brag just a little bit on what your school has accomplished? We'll circle back to all the different parts and pieces you've put in place, but like, what have been some of the quantitative impacts you've seen so far?
So the survey you mentioned, in Kentucky, we do our impact survey, which is every 2 years. So the last year we would have taken the survey as a school would have been the year before we implemented LiveSchool. And if we look at that, all our numbers were extremely good, which is great. But managing student behavior went up 46 percentage points, as to like 74% favorable.
So that's like teachers saying
This is
on a
yeah. No,
scale
I'm
of
sorry. So this is teachers filling this out anonymously.
Mhm.
So if you're ever going to get dinged, that's when it's going to be. Which is why they do it this way, and it's a good thing because you get to see what the teachers are really thinking, um, and how their perception of things are. Because from an admin side of it, it's not always viewed the same, and it's good. It's good to have this data. Managing student behavior went up 46%, to 74% favorable. Um, School climate went up 45%. A couple of emotional well-being and belonging went up 33%.
That's so cool. And so
I
just to
apologize for any sounds you get.
so it's so powerful. So this is, and kudos to the state of Kentucky for making this a thing. If I'm understanding right, this is across the state, but basically this is teachers anonymously saying, "Hey, how are you feeling about, our approach to student behavior? How are you feeling about, students' emotional well-being?" Right? And you're saying that over this 2-year period, these huge increases, um, which is just a great. It must be great validation for you all in administration that, okay, all these systems we're putting into place are showing up and having some positive impact for teachers.
Yeah, when Michelle Carver, our principal, and because it was both of our first years in these positions, um, from the first time we met in our roles to think about what we wanted to do, the focus was climate, uh, because the year before it seemed like a rough year. You felt it, and so we said we're not going to get anything right. Let's make this a place that people want to be, and so that's been a big push. And yeah, and then that survey goes beyond that. Education, educating all students is a category: feedback and coaching, professional learning, resources, school climate, school leadership, and then staff leadership relationships, which that one actually went up 42% as well. We're very proud of that. It's good to know that they don't mind us. But that was the big thing, is that we needed to focus on the climate part of it, and this data is validation of that. And what we find now is that we have another school in our district who is looking at LiveSchool because of what we've been able to do. And actually, our instructional coach is now assistant principal there, and so she's like, hey, maybe we should look into this. Um, and I think we have a lot of eyes on us within the district saying, well, things have made such a good turn. What are some things we can borrow from that?
Yeah. Well, I think that it's such a great segue, and I hope that as other schools are looking at a program like Live School, I hope they realize that the program's just a tool. It's just a piece of technology, and what you do with it is so important. And that's in part why we do these podcasts, so that we can help. That, like, that stuff is so key. So let's dig into that a little bit. Let's go on the fun side for a minute. Could you talk about, like, what are some of the rewards and celebrations and ways that you've made the points exciting for your students?
So that was kind of the big brainstorming part of it, right? And I'll be honest, I'm not the big party guy all the time. I like to think I am, but I'm not. And so we set up a committee, and we said, hey, your whole job is to come up with fun things for us to bring into it, fun rewards for the kids, things the kids are going to enjoy. So I just jotted down a couple things that we've done last year. Well, we obviously have the store, which is a big part of it, and we use it every week with our grade level breaks. So they get to stop by the store on their way to break.
And is that like an actual room somewhere in the building, or where is it set up?
It's a converted bookstore. Like, we had an old spot that was like the old school, like, school bookstore, and pencils and paper and all that stuff. And we converted it over. So every Friday when we have our break, each grade level goes at a different time. And basically they just form a line up there. And then we have a bunch of student workers that come in and,
Oh, okay. So it's student run as well.
we have about 5 or 6 students, and they'll take drinks, and they'll park them outside the door that the kids are leaving.
Yeah.
They'll sell drinks out there, and then they'll sell candy, stuffed animals, little
Awesome. A
plush
little bit of,
toys.
like, entrepreneurship business experience.
Right. And we ask them what should we have in there, and they'll tell us, little candies that are all the things that we don't know anything about. And they'll put them in there, and the kids stock it. The kids sell it. We give them a couple of iPads that are logged into either my account or our new TRT's account. They'll go through and just sell things. And it's been a big hit. But some other things we've done, we've given extra breaks, just as, hey, this week, you're at this many points, or, we're going to do this. We've also done surprise movie trips. One time last year, we knew we were going to do it, but the kids didn't, and we just called one whole group down that had earned enough. We're like, hey guys, we're going to the movies, and we paid for everything for them, and so everything was kind of taken care of. And the surprise factor of that was,
That's so cool. We talked to so many schools, and I've never heard that idea. The idea of just surprising kids with a reward it's such a smart idea. It's got to be so fun for the kids, right?
they went nuts for it, and we were like, and at the time there wasn't a great movie on, and so it wasn't like the movie everybody wanted to see. It was some movie I'd never heard of, and we were like, it just meets the rating
But just so I
requirement.
get this right, like, I'm a kid, I'm in school, I'm doing school, and randomly I get called down. Hey, we're going to the physical movies, or this is in the building.
So the kids are all in first period. We announce, we call names. They come to the cafeteria. I'm standing down there. Most of them are like, "Am I in trouble? What's going on?" And so we said, "Listen, guys, you all have done this, this, this. Let's go to the movies." And they were,
They're like, what? It probably didn't even make sense at
no.
first,
I
right?
was like, the buses are outside. Let's go. And we took off. And the good thing is we're a city school, so we were really close. Ran them over. They watched a movie. We had them back before lunch, and when they came in, because again, the movie wasn't great. I was concerned that we were going to have negative feedback on that. And as they walked back in, I was like, "Hey guys, how was the movie?" And they loved it. Uh, and I think it was just more to do with, well, I did not have to sit in first, second, or third period today.
Yeah, absolutely. And the surprise, yeah. Which I just want to highlight, like, imagine now you have all those kids coming back and telling their friends, and all those other kids are going to be thinking about that when they're thinking about behavior choices and earning points. And I mean, that's got to create some serious buzz if kids know, hey, you never know when there's going to be a surprise incentive.
Right. And I think that was one of the big things that was like the big question, like the rest of the day for all the staff, is why didn't I get to go? And then when you get to talk through it, and you say, well, maybe next time. You never know. But the kids really enjoyed that. And we tried to do like just little extra things along those lines. Sometimes we'll do extra treats for them at lunch. We have an Well, we have some picnic tables outside. I wouldn't call it necessarily outside eating area. We have some picnic tables outside. So on occasion, we'll say, all right, we'll give out little tickets. If you got one of these tickets, you can go outside and eat. And we've had Sundays and stuff for them out there, and just, make your own Sunday bar type thing where we can set it up and they come out there, kind of do that and just have some time isolated. And what I've found is sometimes it doesn't even matter what it is. It separates them a little bit and makes them feel special for what they've earned. And that's enough, because then all of a sudden you have a group that says, I want that. I want to be part of that. And so then they'll start working towards it.
That's really neat. It sounds like a great mix too. So you've got the store always going, and then these more like events and experiences. So there's a great mix for students. It sounds like it's a mix of kind of tangible, but also intangible, more experiences and things like that, which is really cool.
Yeah. And so, that's kind of the thing when we talk about this with the staff is they're like, well, how many good positive points is this worth? And I think, well, I don't think you can't assign a number, because at the end of the day, it's really not about the points. It's about you being rewarded for something positive you're doing. And if we get to, and so we can say, well, if you get 100 points, you get 10 points. That kid's smiling just the same. And I always joke, it's kind of like whose line is it anyway? Where, the scores made up and the points don't matter. It's not like that. The points do matter. But it's one of those things where you just throw them out. And as long as you're acknowledging the positive thing the kid's doing, and they get to see that reinforcement from their staff members, from their teachers, from their admin, from the custodians, from the instructional assistants. That's a positive thing that they're going to remember, and that makes their day at school just a little bit better. And it's those positive things that keep them coming back, and they want to be here. At least I feel like they do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really great that you're emphasizing that part of it as a team. I mean, I mentioned already, like a tool like LiveSchool, whether it's LiveSchool, a spreadsheet, whatever it is, it's just a tool. And that conversation you're having with students is so important. Like actually telling them, what they did that was awesome, and giving them that recognition. So it sounds like you're really balancing both. Like the points are important, but there's a heavy focus on, shouting out kids and making them feel successful. What about just like when it came to getting buy-in from teachers? I mean, it seems like it's been a big success in this department, and I'm sure you being in the building for a long time and having those relationships, people probably knew that you wouldn't just throw something at them that you know was just an idea from the top kind of thing. But any learnings that you would share with other people around just how to roll something like this out and make sure that teachers feel like that it's meeting their needs?
I mean, I think you got to start with the why. You got to understand that it needs to address the need. And the need we had was that our behavior, we didn't feel like it was in a great place, and we didn't feel like the kind of more traditional things that we'd done to address behavior were necessarily working in our favor or the students' favor. And so that led to a whole lot of frustration, which that frustration is like a killer for school climate, and it's overall culture and morale. So when we introduced this again, we led with the positive part of it, and we've even gotten to a point where we will recognize teachers as because we have a list. We know what the teachers like, their favorite candy and things like that, and it's not uncommon for us to go pick up a thing of Starburst and drop it off at the teacher and be like, hey, we saw that you gave the most points this week. That's awesome. And so, and we joked about it starting like a teacher store as well, because the teachers are like we have
half joking, right?
half joking. But we do like to recognize it. We see that we've those ratio numbers. We see somebody with the best ratio. Hey, you had the best ratio in a faculty meeting. Hey, congratulations to this teacher. They had the best ratio this week. That's awesome, because we know that if the teachers are buying into it and they're using it, and they're being positive with their kids are going to enjoy that class. I mean, they may not enjoy the content always, but they will enjoy being around that positive environment, especially when so many of our students, not just here at Bay, but everywhere, they may not get that positivity elsewhere. So we want to make sure that when they come here, they're getting it, and we want our teachers when they come here every day, we want this to be a very positive place for them as well. So that's kind of the focus, is making sure it's as positive for the teachers as it is for the students. Uh, which, I mean, not everybody was completely on board right away. Um, but then, we just had some conversations about it, and the more we got into it, the funny thing is that some of the teachers that I thought were kind of a little more set in their ways, and kind of maybe they already had. There's one teacher that I'd like to mention, uh, and he has great classroom management. In fact, he was actually featured in the First Days of School book by Harry Wong. Um, and in one of our PLCs recently, he just said, "I just want to say that LiveSchool may be the best behavior system that I've ever seen." And he's so thankful that we have it. And what's funny is he doesn't give strikes, because I just try to, I'm like, you barely use it. And he was like, well, no, because he does his own points thing in his class. And um, but he was like, no, I've never seen one change so much. And there are a lot of other parts to it, uh, than just using it. But the kids have gotten involved. The kids buy into it. I mean, every Friday, my job at break is stand out there and monitor that LiveSchool line, because middle school, they're excited they're getting candy, they're excited they're getting drinks, and they are loud. And some kids are still trying to do stuff in the building. So I've got to. That's
So this is like a down the hallway type line.
Yes. I've joked with the LiveSchool workers that I will give them LiveSchool points if they can get through the entire line in 10 minutes.
Wow, so you have so much demand for your store that you're trying to get all the students served in time.
Because break's only 25 minutes. and so if we take 20 minutes of that for some kid to get their Jolly Ranchers, their Sour Patch Kids, it's not going to be the same, because they're going to say, well, I don't have time for it, I don't want to use it. So I told the group that's in there, I was like, guys, if you can wrap this up in 10 minutes, I'll give each of you LiveSchool points. And they were like, bet, let's do it. And so then they're rushed through the, all right, come on, let's go. So I also have to tell them about being kind and to students who aren't moving as quickly as they want them. Um, but it's good that the
That's
kids
cool.
get
I mean, those are real life lessons, and it seems like a real sense of like purpose for those students. They're doing something, that matters to their peers. So the whole thing just sounds like you really have a snowball rolling, down the hill. It's got momentum. It seems like people are bought in. You did mention like, some teachers at first weren't maybe as on board. Did you encounter any of the ideas? Sometimes like it comes up like, kids should just be doing the right thing. We shouldn't have to recognize or incentivize them. That's certainly something we've heard over the years. I'm just curious, did that idea come up, or were teachers pretty on board and they said, look, we know we have to make a change because things haven't been going well?
I think everybody kind of understood that hey, the change has to be made. We've tried to have the mindset that the kids should just come to school and do it, and the reality is they're not going to. Uh, Not all of them. Some will, but there's a lot of them that they need those reasons why they need to see, maybe not instant gratification, but they need to see that they need to see shorter term than every grading period reward for what they're doing. And I think our data for just overall behavior is showing that as well. And if I got the numbers, if you want to hear them, I would have pulled them from. This is actually the first time that I've looked at them for the past 3 years. Was when I pulled them for this. From the 21-22 school year, the number of students with referrals with big incidents went from 169 students to 146, and so far this year through this morning, 73.
Wow,
So that's
awesome.
going down, and so from before LiveSchool to LiveSchool, so 3 years ago, or 2 school years ago to last year. Excuse me, I was struggling. We, as far as referrals overall, went from 687 to 484, and then this year so far we're at 131.
Wow, and we're sitting March 20th. So, I mean,
I mean, it could blow up, but
yeah, yeah. Yeah, knock on wood, don't wanna jinx anything. Yeah, good. Fair enough, fair enough. But if the trend continues, that's gonna be another big reduction this year.
Right, and the goal ultimately, last year we were implementing a new system, so we were still handling a lot of the behaviors the same way we had before. And this year we have a better handle on that, so we started looking at a whole lot of more restorative justice type things. What kind of practices can we put in that's going to help these kids kind of understand the situation while holding them accountable and kind of helping themselves hold each other accountable. And so this year, as far as so we have an opportunity room. Our in-school suspension, we call it opportunity room. Always opportunity to change the attitude, right, or opportunity to change the behavior. But the numbers on that, before live school, 350 to the first year, 336. So not a whole lot of change because again, we were focused in on implementing and just kind of monitoring. And then this year so far, we've had 94. And that's days that students have spent in this room. So the idea that they're staying out of this room, and I say this room because my office is actually connected to it. It's out there. They're staying in the class more. Then as far as out of school suspension, we've had a big push this year within our school to limit the out of school suspensions as much as possible. I mean, obviously there's going to be behaviors that come up sometimes that require those kind of things. So before live school, 152. Last year in the first year of live school, 65. And then this year so far, we've suspended kids 18 times. And so kids are in school more, and they're not just in school, they're in class more. And overall, they seem to be a little more positive about being here. And we try to start that off because, you're going to have some kids that are going to struggle, especially with our main thing being the live school store every Friday with break. We always start the year off where we don't hold anybody in for break. Everybody has to experience the positive, because if they don't, they'll never know what they're missing. And the other day I walked outside to kind of just monitor, and I had a sixth grader come up and he said, "I got break today," and I kind of laughed with him because he's a character. And I said, "Well, that's good." I said, "You should have it every week." And he said that was the first time that he'd had it in 4 weeks. But he had his candy, and he still had his live school points. He had his candy and he had his drink, and he was just happy to be there. And he said, "I'm definitely going to get out here again next week." I said, "All right, that's good. It's a good goal to have." And so far, he's on track, which is good.
That's huge. That's huge. Maybe we could close out with, you had mentioned that when you and the head principal both started your first year, you just kind of looked at each other and agreed off the bat that culture and climate was going to be the number one focus. And I think all the data, everything you've shared backs up, like, you all set that priority, and with the staff, with the students, you've delivered. Can you just, to close out, like, why was that the thing that you all decided to, prioritize so high? I mean, it could have been academics, it could have been, not to say those aren't important, but why was that the number one lever that you wanted to push on first?
I think the main thing is because looking, and you gotta understand a little bit about our school. We had a school that turnover of staff members was huge. I started 16 years ago with a group of 13 new teachers, and I'm the only one still in the building. Miss Carver, as my principal, is currently my 7th new principal in 16 years. And she had been assistant principal for 9 years. And so she had been through a couple of principals herself. So she's been in the building for 11 years. And we obviously found that this was a place we wanted to be. We love it here. This is the community we want to serve. And we want all the teachers here to have that same mindset. And so we wanted to focus on culture and climate because we wanted to increase teacher retention. And in our first year, we had 2 teachers turnover with an entire staff, which is the lowest in my time here. And Mr. Gully, who was the teacher I mentioned earlier, he'd been in the building, I believe, for 23 years. He said it was the lowest he could remember. and which allowed us to carry momentum into this year a little bit better. And as of right now, we've already done our letter of intents, and I know things come up and things change, but besides a couple of teachers we have retiring, everybody says they want to be back here, and we've got a few teachers who were here in the past that are wanting to come back. And what we've found is that when the teachers want to be here, when this is their choice to be here, they're providing a better opportunity for the kids. And ultimately, I think LiveSchool is a tool for doing all of that, because it allows us to increase the positivity all the way around. It increases student behavior. No, let me rephrase that. It, it increases the positive student behavior, decreases the behavior that you have to deal with. And when you do have to deal with it, it gives you an option, because they know the teachers know if they put in strikes, they write comments, they know I read them. Our weekly behavior thing is set up, after 3 strikes, it's a lunch detention. 4 is morning detention. 5 is a phone call home. I mean, it's kind of a stair step thing. The kids know it, because when I bring them for lunch, like, Mr. Smith, I did not have 3 strikes. I'm like, well, we may look at this again, and then I can sit down with them. I can bring up the strikes, and the teachers are very good about writing comments, and I can say, hey, this, did this happen? And then they're like, yes, and then I'm like, okay, well, let's. But it also gives us a basis to focus on what we need to change, and it gives us an opportunity to have those reflective moments with students. And sometimes middle schoolers, they don't think all the time.
No, yeah, we've all been there.
And that's what times, and me too. I was the same way. So when they come in there, they fill those papers out. They think about what they did and what they could have done differently. There's a lot of times they're like, I'm like, well, why'd that happen? I don't know. I genuinely believe them. I'm like, okay, let's write out what we should do, and let's think about that. So then we focus on those positive things. But again, it makes it a place that everybody wants to be. And I don't have our attendance numbers right now, but just looking at them, they're so much better. Like today, we've got 5 6th graders total out, and that's, I think, the most we've had all week. And so this is a situation where the kids are choosing to be here, teachers are choosing to be here, the admin, we want to be here, and so it's something very, very positive for everybody. And LiveSchool is a system that's allowed us to focus in on that more so than we were able to in the past. Because even our old Google form model had strikes and rewards, but again, it was a little more clunky in how you used it. It didn't keep the data as nicely, so it was harder to track. And that's, again, it needs to be data. I even put that down as in my notes. Focus on the positive and let data drive. That's a big focus of it. And if I see that one grade level really goes all the strikes, then I focus into, all right, what's going on. It allows us to have those opportunities. And just kids, the fact that the kids know that I'm checking. And as I walk down the hallway, I may say, hey, what's that strike about? And they're like, okay, this is what happened, Mr. Smith. And then they share their story. I explain to them why that earned them a strike. Usually they know already. They're like, yes, sir. I'll take care of it. It'll be better. But it also gives the parents that opportunity for the parents to come in. We haven't really talked about that. But there's a lot of times where I'll get a phone call from a parent who will have read a strike from a student, and they'll be like, can you call him in and can you talk to him? Yes, ma'am, I can. I will. Yes, I will do that. But just that getting everybody on board, that increased transparency, because I feel like sometimes it's an us against them thing with schools and at home, and it doesn't need to be that way. And we're trying very hard to make it. Hey, we're all on the same team here. Our goal is the success of these kids, of your kids, and parents seem to respect that. They seem to have a very positive reaction to that. So what we've also found is we have less negative parent meetings as well. When they come in, they've already been communicated with, and when we come in, I can bring up all the data and I can show them. I can say, all right, well, here's what we're dealing with. Let's brainstorm and come up with something. I think they appreciate the fact that the goal is to punish the kid; it's to get the kid to be successful. And it's hard to say that we're not focusing on that when the kid has so many positive points. When I bring up their timeline for the parents, it's all green, and then there's like a handful of red sprinkled in. it's hard for them to say, well, you all just focus on the negative, um, because we don't ever want to be accused of that. So I don't know if I answered your question. I think I just rambled there for a bit.
Yeah, no, you answered my question and a lot more. It's really it's inspiring, honestly, and seems like you've done so much to show positivity to students and even staff, build the positive culture. So I hope someone's telling you and the administrators what a good job you all have done. I mean, just based on everything you've shared, it's really amazing what what a small group of people with some focus and positivity and the right systems can do in just a couple of years. And you know you can imagine an alternate universe where you all hadn't had those conversations 2 years ago, and you hadn't made some of these changes, and maybe things would look kind of similar this year to 2 years ago, but it's totally different because of what you did. So it's really cool.
I'm extremely grateful that that our principal, Michelle Carver, um, she could have easily have said, "Hey, let's not change everything with our behavior in our first year." It would have been completely understandable. Um, but thankfully, she she trusted that we could do it, and she bought in. And so and the thing is, there are resources that we need. I mean, we have to fund the the LiveSchool store, which I believe right now we've sold over 1,000 drinks.
You got like Amazon running out of your school.
I mean, 1,000 drinks, almost 700 full size candy bars. And then the kids can do other things like we're 1-to-1 with Chromebooks. They can, so instead of, they used to get strikes or demerits for not bringing their Chromebook and having to borrow, and so now we just have a Chromebook rental fee, and a Chromebook charging fee if it happens in the classroom. And believe it or not, those two are also in our top five. That's what middle school kids. But we also have big things like we used to do attendance awards. Well, we still do attendance awards, but we had a whole thing of larger items like a Kindle. And so we put that in a store and cranked it up to several thousand points. And last year we sold 2 of them at the end of the year because kids saved up all year and they said, that's what I want. I'm going to get it. And they did. And so it was great to be able to say, hey, there you go. Here's what you've earned. Oddly enough, the books we have, we've only sold 3 books in 2 years.
Hey, they like what they like.
The kids that work at the store, they're like, Mr. Smith, nobody's ever going to do that. I'm like, one day we'll get somebody. And so we've sold 3. So,
I mean, look, that's kind of the thing, right? Is you got to meet kids where they're at, and hopefully over time they'll want to buy more books. But if there's other things they're enjoying for now and they're working hard and learning,
our Kroger bill will be pretty high trying to get all these drinks. And
yeah, you've got to be one of Kroger's top customers at this point, right? Yeah. Awesome. Well, I just want to thank you again for coming on the podcast, sharing. There's some practices here that I think other schools are going to really appreciate and learn from. Just one that's definitely going to stick with me. I'm going to share with our team the idea of a surprise incentive. I mean, we've worked with thousands of schools. I'm sure someone has thought of it, so I'm sorry if you're listening, but I have never heard it, and I'm not sure our team has either. So I think it's so creative. So just everything y'all are doing is just so great. I'm excited to follow along the next few years and just watch as y'all keep rolling the snowball and building on the momentum. So thank you again for joining the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.